Have you ever planted a container full of flowers, enjoyed a few weeks of beautiful blooms, and then watched the entire display gradually lose its charm? The flowers disappear, growth slows, and by midsummer the container already looks tired and sparse. But not all plants behave that way. Some flowers seem determined to bloom endlessly, keeping containers vibrant for months with very little effort from the gardener. Imagine pots overflowing with color from late spring until autumn. Flowers that continue blooming through intense heat, bright sunshine, and even occasional neglect while still attracting bees, butterflies, and other pollinators. That kind of display isn't the result of luck. It comes from choosing plants that are naturally programmed to keep flowering. In this video, we'll explore 10 exceptional container flowers that bloom continuously throughout summer, while requiring surprisingly little maintenance. These are reliable performers that keep producing long after many other plants have stopped. And some of the most prolific bloomers are also among the easiest flowers to grow. 1. Petunia. Petunias have earned their reputation as one of the most dependable container flowers available, and it's easy to understand why gardeners continue planting them year after year. Initially, most people are attracted by their incredible range of colors. But after growing petunias for a season, they quickly discover that their greatest strength is persistence. These plants grow rapidly and waste no time filling a container. Once established, they spread outward with impressive vigor, covering bare areas and cascading gracefully over the edges of pots, hanging baskets, and window boxes. This natural trailing habit creates the lush, overflowing displays often seen in professional garden designs. Their flowering performance is even more impressive. Rather than blooming in short bursts, petunias continuously produce fresh buds throughout the season. As older flowers fade, new ones quickly replace them, creating a nearly uninterrupted display of color from spring until frost. Modern varieties have made maintenance easier than ever. Many newer petunias are self-cleaning, which means spent flowers drop away naturally without requiring regular deadheading. This allows gardeners to enjoy continuous blooms without spending time removing faded flowers. Petunias also excel during summer heat. When temperatures rise and many flowering plants begin to slow down, petunias continue producing flowers enthusiastically, provided they receive plenty of sunlight. Full sun is where they truly shine. Although they appreciate consistent watering, they are more forgiving than many gardeners expect. If the soil dries slightly during hot weather, they usually recover quickly once moisture is restored. Another reason for their popularity is versatility. Petunias work beautifully in hanging baskets, decorative containers, patio planters, raised pots, and mixed arrangements. They can create stunning displays on their own, or blend effortlessly with foliage plants and other flowers. As the season progresses, they often become even more impressive. They don't simply survive in containers, they completely transform them into cascades of color. 2. Geranium. Geraniums, more accurately known as pelargoniums, remain one of the most beloved container flowers in the world. And after growing them, it's easy to understand why. Few plants combine structure, toughness, and reliable blooming quite so successfully. Unlike trailing flowers such as petunias, geraniums develop a more upright and organized growth habit. Thick stems and rounded foliage create a strong framework, while clusters of blooms rise above the leaves and immediately capture attention. This gives containers height, presence, and visual strength even when only a single plant is used. The flowers themselves are bold and striking. Rather than producing isolated blooms, geraniums generate large clusters packed with color. Bright reds, vivid pinks, whites, corals, salmon tones, and attractive bicolor varieties allow them to complement almost any garden style. Yet their greatest advantage is durability. Geraniums tolerate strong sunlight, hot temperatures, breezy balconies, and occasional drought with remarkable ease. In fact, excessive watering is often a greater threat than occasional dryness. Their slightly succulent stems and leaves help store moisture, allowing them to remain healthy and attractive, even during periods of summer heat. This resilience makes them perfectly suited to container gardening. Maintenance requirements are minimal. While removing spent flower clusters can encourage even more blooms, geraniums naturally continue flowering throughout the season without demanding constant attention. Another reason they are so useful is their ability to provide structure. In mixed plantings, geraniums serve as visual anchors that help organize the design. Their upright form contrasts beautifully with softer trailing plants that spill over container edges. Even when planted alone, they create displays that feel complete, balanced, and elegant. Geraniums adapt equally well to compact pots, large decorative containers, sunny patios, balconies, and windowsills, making them suitable for gardeners of all experience levels. And as summer advances, they rarely decline. Instead, they become larger, stronger, and increasingly colorful. They don't lose momentum as the season progresses. They often become the highlight of the entire garden. 3. Calibrachoa. If you love the vibrant appearance of petunias but want a plant that stays slightly neater and requires even less maintenance, Calibrachoa, commonly called million bells, is an outstanding option for containers. This plant has a remarkable ability to transform ordinary pots into lush, overflowing displays with very little effort. Once it settles in, Calibrachoa begins spreading rapidly, cascading gracefully over the edges of containers and hanging baskets. Rather than growing upright, it naturally trails downward, creating a soft waterfall effect that adds movement and elegance to any arrangement. Its flowering performance is extraordinary. Although each bloom is relatively small, the sheer number of flowers produced at one time is impressive. In peak season, the foliage can become almost completely hidden beneath a blanket of color. Unlike many flowering plants that bloom in cycles, Calibrachoa rarely takes a break. Fresh flowers continue appearing from early summer until cool weather arrives, creating months of uninterrupted color. One of the biggest reasons for its popularity is how easy it is to maintain. Older container flowers often require frequent deadheading to remain attractive, but Calibrachoa is naturally self-cleaning. As older blooms fade, they drop away on their own while new flowers quickly take their place. The result is continuous flowering without constant attention. Calibrachoa also performs exceptionally well in sunny locations and handles summer heat with ease. As long as it receives regular watering and grows in well-drained soil, it remains vigorous and productive even during prolonged hot weather. Its versatility adds another layer of appeal. It looks spectacular when planted alone, creating containers that appear to overflow with flowers. It also works beautifully in mixed arrangements, where it serves as a trailing plant that softens edges and visually connects neighboring plants. As the season progresses, Calibrachoa often becomes even more impressive. Rather than slowing down, it develops into a larger and denser cascade of blooms. For gardeners seeking nonstop color with minimal maintenance, few plants are as rewarding as Calibrachoa. 4. Begonia. Begonias are among the finest flowering plants for containers located in partial shade or full shade. If your patio, balcony, or garden receives limited direct sunlight, begonias can provide exactly the kind of long-lasting color that many sun-loving flowers cannot deliver. Their greatest strength is consistency. While many flowering plants reduce blooming in lower light conditions, begonias continue producing flowers steadily throughout the season. Their blooms appear in beautiful shades of pink, red, coral, orange, and white, bringing warmth and color to areas that might otherwise feel dull or empty. Yet flowers are only part of their appeal. Many begonia varieties also feature highly attractive foliage. Their glossy, textured leaves add depth, richness, and visual interest, even when flowering slows temporarily. This combination of decorative foliage and continuous blooms helps containers remain attractive for months. Begonias also maintain a naturally balanced growth habit. Rather than becoming sprawling or unruly, they typically form compact, rounded plants that fill containers evenly and neatly. This creates a polished appearance without the need for constant trimming. Adaptability is another major advantage. Begonias handle humidity, fluctuating temperatures, and varying light conditions surprisingly well. Whether growing beneath a covered patio, on a shaded porch, or in a protected garden corner, they tend to remain healthy and dependable. Care requirements are refreshingly straightforward. They appreciate moderate watering and good drainage, but rarely demand intensive maintenance. As long as they are not overwatered and are protected from harsh afternoon sun, they continue blooming with little intervention. Frequent pruning is generally unnecessary, making them ideal for gardeners seeking attractive containers without complicated care routines. Compared with bold, sun-loving flowers, begonias create a softer and more refined atmosphere. Rather than overwhelming a space with intense color, they provide steady elegance and long-lasting beauty. Their reliability is what makes them truly valuable. Even when conditions are less than perfect, begonias continue performing beautifully and keeping containers attractive throughout the season. 5. Verbena. Verbena is one of those rare plants that seems to flourish when summer reaches its hottest point. While many container flowers begin slowing down during periods of intense heat, verbena often becomes even more productive. That ability makes it an exceptional choice for sunny patios, balconies, and containers exposed to full summer sun. Its individual flowers may be small, but they are produced in dense clusters that create a vibrant display visible from a distance. Available in shades of purple, pink, red, white, and lavender, verbena adds bright, energetic color that lasts for months. And unlike plants that provide only a brief flowering period, verbena blooms continuously throughout the growing season. Given enough sunlight, it keeps producing fresh flowers from early summer well into autumn. Its durability is another major advantage. Verbena is naturally adapted to challenging conditions. Strong sunlight, heat, occasional drought, and inconsistent watering rarely prevent it from performing well once established. Mature plants become surprisingly drought-tolerant, making them easier to manage than many other flowering container plants. This resilience is particularly valuable in containers, where soil can dry out quickly during hot weather. Verbena also helps create a more active and lively garden environment. Butterflies, bees, and other pollinators are strongly attracted to its flowers, turning simple containers into miniature wildlife habitats filled with movement and activity. Another benefit is flexibility. Some varieties grow as compact, upright plants, while others spread gently or trail over container edges. This makes verbena equally useful as a focal flower or as part of larger mixed plantings. Maintenance is minimal. An occasional trim can encourage even heavier blooming, but the plant usually continues flowering enthusiastically without regular intervention. Verbena is not a flower that demands constant care. Instead, it quietly delivers continuous color through heat, drought, and challenging summer conditions. For gardeners who want containers that remain bright, colorful, and full of life throughout the hottest months of the year, verbena is one of the most dependable choices available. 6. Lobelia. Lobelia brings a completely different mood to container gardens compared to many bold summer flowers. Rather than demanding attention with large blooms and intense colors, it introduces softness, elegance, and a gentle sense of movement that helps balance more dramatic plants. Its tiny flowers appear in incredible numbers, creating delicate blankets of blue, purple, lavender, or white. From a distance, the blooms often resemble a cloud of color spilling gracefully across the container. That cascading habit is one of its greatest strengths. Lobelia naturally trails over the edges of pots, window boxes, and hanging baskets, softening hard lines and giving arrangements a fuller, more relaxed appearance. It creates the impression that the container is overflowing naturally rather than being carefully designed. In mixed plantings, lobelia often serves as the finishing touch that ties everything together. Older varieties sometimes struggled during periods of intense summer heat, but many modern cultivars have been developed specifically to tolerate warmer conditions more successfully. With consistent moisture and some protection from harsh afternoon sun, they can continue blooming for much of the season. And if flowering temporarily slows during extreme weather, a light trim often encourages a fresh flush of blooms surprisingly quickly. Lobelia is also extremely valuable from a design perspective. It naturally fills empty spaces, softens larger plants, and creates beautiful contrast alongside bold flowers with stronger colors or heavier foliage. Rather than competing for attention, it enhances everything around it. Care requirements are relatively straightforward. Lobelia prefers evenly moist soil, good drainage, and either partial sun or morning sunlight in warmer climates. Under favorable conditions, it remains lush, fresh, and colorful for months. In many container arrangements, lobelia acts like the final brushstroke in a painting. It softens edges, adds movement, and creates the layered, overflowing effect that makes containers look complete. It may not be the loudest flower in the garden, but it is often the one that makes the entire arrangement feel finished. 7. Zinnia. If your goal is to create containers bursting with color and energy throughout the entire summer, zinnias are among the easiest and most rewarding flowers you can grow. The moment they begin blooming, they transform ordinary spaces into vibrant displays filled with life. Their flowers are large, bold, and impossible to overlook. Although their shape resembles a daisy, zinnias offer a much richer color palette, including brilliant reds, oranges, yellows, pinks, purples, and stunning multicolored varieties. The result is a display that feels cheerful, bright, and full of personality. One of the biggest reasons gardeners love zinnias is their incredible flowering season. Once blooming begins in early summer, fresh flowers continue appearing continuously until frost finally ends the season. That means a single planting can provide months of uninterrupted color. For container gardening, compact and dwarf varieties are particularly useful. They develop dense, rounded shapes that fill containers beautifully without becoming overly tall or unstable. This makes them ideal for patios, balconies, porches, and other small outdoor spaces where every inch matters. Zinnias are also passionate sun lovers. The more sunlight they receive, the stronger and more productive they become. Even during periods of intense summer heat, they continue blooming enthusiastically while many other flowers begin to struggle. Their simplicity is another major advantage. Once established, zinnias tolerate dry conditions fairly well and often prefer soil that dries slightly between waterings. This makes them easier to maintain than many moisture-loving flowering plants. They are also naturally resilient and generally resistant to many common garden problems, which is why beginners often achieve excellent results with them. Zinnias reward minimal effort with maximum impact. If you want containers that remain colorful, lively, and packed with blooms throughout the hottest months of the year, zinnias are one of the most dependable choices available. 8. Impatiens. Many gardeners assume that nonstop flowering requires full sun. Impatiens prove otherwise. These plants are perfectly adapted to shaded and partially shaded environments where many other flowering species struggle to perform. And rather than merely surviving in lower light, impatiens genuinely flourish there. Once established in containers, they begin producing large numbers of blooms that can nearly cover the foliage entirely. Their flowers are soft in appearance, yet wonderfully vibrant, appearing in shades of pink, red, coral, white, purple, and attractive bicolor combinations. These colors bring brightness and warmth to areas that might otherwise feel dark or overlooked. One of the reasons impatiens remain so popular is consistency. They flower steadily throughout the season without requiring complicated maintenance routines or perfect growing conditions. In containers, they naturally form dense, rounded mounds that fill space evenly and create the lush, overflowing appearance many gardeners love. Even a single plant can make a pot feel rich and abundant. Unlike sun-loving flowers, impatiens appreciate evenly moist soil and regular watering, particularly during warm weather. However, if they wilt slightly from dryness, they typically recover very quickly once moisture is restored. Adaptability is another major advantage. Impatiens thrive on shaded balconies, covered porches, woodland-style gardens, and patios where sunlight is limited for much of the day. They bring dependable color to locations where many flowering plants simply cannot succeed. In mixed containers, impatiens serve as excellent filler plants, helping create fullness while providing continuous blooms between larger companion plants. When grown alone, they create thick carpets of color with very little effort. Impatiens demonstrate that a beautiful container garden does not require endless sunshine. Even in the shade, they keep outdoor spaces looking vibrant, cheerful, and alive from early summer until the season finally comes to an end.